sohbetleri in Turkish. Today we have a program which we hope will ease our longing for the blue coast of Turkey. And to do that, we have a wonderful guest who will bring us the coasts we have been yearning all last summer to go and enjoy. Engin Kadaster is our guest today, and she is the Vice President and Manager of Turkey at its Best travel agency, which is located in California, but she hosts travelers from all over the world. She is also the preferred tour operator of the prestigious Virtuoso Consortium, which you need to explain to us a little more, Engin. She has over 40 years of academic and frontline experience in Turkish history, archaeology, and tourism. I guess you started when you were 10 years old. During her very colorful life, Engin studied with Halikarnas balıkçısı. Probably the younger generation would not know who Halikarnas balıkçısı is, the fisherman of Halikarnassus. He was the pioneer in introducing the blue trip to the wonderful coasts of Turkey. Perhaps we needed a separate program for that. And she was at one time worked as an archaeologist, and she was designated as the official guide by the Turkish Ministry of Culture for the British royal family's visit to Ephesus. We have a touch of crown here. Recently, she was A-listed as the featured advisor for Turkey 4 years in a row from 2017 on by the Travel and Leisure magazine, the premier travel publication in the United States. Our topic today, fitting the date of December 23rd, just before Christmas Eve, is Saint Nicholas of Demre, which is located within the province of Antalya in Turkey. Perhaps we should say, in our expanding our title, Santa Claus does not come from the North Pole, but comes from the Turkish coast of the Mediterranean. Now let us have Engin tell us about Demre and the beautiful Antalya province, truly an open-air museum, which covers centuries of civilizations and cultures. And first of all, tell us, Engin, where were you born, and your family, and where did you study?
I was born in Izmir, which is the ancient Smyrna, city of Smyrna, the third largest city of Turkey. I was educated for my middle school and high school in Izmir American Kız Koleji, American Collegiate Institute for Girls at that time. At that time, it was only for girls. So it was for 8 years. We had to borrow guys from other schools when we had drama plays that we put that together. But it was a wonderful school. Most of our teachers were from the United States, and we studied almost every subject with the exception of history, geography, and Turkish lit in English. Every once in a while, we would get some British teachers who would try to correct our American English when we said, it's 10 after 10. They would say, no, it's 10 past 10. You know, that kind of an education. But it was lovely. And then because I lived in Izmir, which is full of ancient cities, and because I could speak English at a young age, I became a tour guide. In those days, there were hardly any tour guides in Turkey. Tourism was just beginning in Turkey. All these new cities, old cities were beginning to be excavated. So I became a tour guide at the age of 16. And the ruins interested me so much that I decided to study archaeology, which I did at the University of Ankara, Dil Tarih Coğrafya Fakültesi. My major actually was Near Eastern archaeology, and my minor was Greek and Roman. And it's been a wonderful journey because I'm still learning, I'm still reading. This is a field that you cannot stop from learning because there are constantly new things happening.
Well, unique that you are a travel advisor, but you also have in-depth knowledge of archaeology and culture of the region. It is a very unique combination, and Turkey is so full of it. I don't think there will be ever an end to it because
That's true.
new excavations are coming. So when did you come to the United States, and how did that go?
Well, my husband, Kadaster, was educated in America for college and master's degrees in North Carolina, Duke University, and South Carolina at Clemson. He came back to Turkey. Somehow we got hooked together and came here in 1975. The first state I lived in was South Carolina, where I tried to get some Southern drawl, welcome you all, you know. We lived there for 2 years, and then we went to Chicago because my husband wanted to get a master's degree at Northwestern. 2 cold, very cold years in Chicago. Coming from Izmir, which is like Southern California, it was a learning experience. Then in 1980, we moved to California. We opened our company in 1985, so we're going in the right direction. And since that time, we have been designing these wonderful tours for groups or individuals. Everything we do is customized based on the interests and the pocketbooks of the travelers, obviously. But Turkey is such a country that you can have all kinds of special interest tours. Like, for instance, Christian tours, Jewish tours, art tours, women's tours, shopping tours, arts, archaeology. The weirdest one that I designed was for a travel agent in Boise, Idaho, who said all her clients were potato farmers. So I designed a potato farming tour of Turkey. How about that? You would be amazed. I went to Cappadocia. There are caves in Cappadocia full of millions and millions of potato seeds. If there is a nuclear war, that's the best place to be. You're protected and you have plenty of potatoes. So Turkey is really a fascinating country because you can do so much with it.
Yes, Turkey is multicultural.
Yeah.
You know, many countries are monocultural. For example, I love going to Greece, but it is dedicated to only ancient Greece. And there's nothing else. There are too many mosques or synagogues left. And it is, I love it. But you come to Turkey, there's just no end to it. There's so many different cultures. That's very remarkable. So you are in California, and how is the business going in terms of tourism?
Of course, there is apparently a Chinese curse word which says, "May you live in interesting times." Well, in 1920, we all lived in interesting times. Business, of course, was down to zero from March until the end of June. But you would be surprised, we had quite a bit of business after that.
Really?
Because 2 reasons. One was because Turkey allowed American travelers, and most travelers from anywhere actually, to enter Turkey without being quarantined. Whereas all the European countries had a 14-day quarantine requirement before you really could go in and do whatever you wanted to do. So people came to Turkey because they were all fed up being at home. COVID is everywhere. COVID is in the States. COVID is in England. COVID is in Turkey. So they said, we might as well enjoy our life. COVID is teaching us a lot of interesting things. And then another reason is, if you stayed and spent 14 days in Turkey, like I had quite a few families who did that, you could fly to Malta on Turkish Airlines nonstop, the island of Malta. And from Malta, after staying there for some time, you could go to any country that you wanted to go in Europe. No quarantine. So we had people who spent 14 days in Turkey. I designed all kinds of tours for them. After that, they flew to Malta. From Malta, they went on their merry way. So business has been good. We are hopeful for next year. We are delighted about the fact that there is now a vaccine. Of course, it doesn't end all the problems. It will be a gradual increase, I'm sure. But you know what? Turkey has been around for 12,000 years. It will be around for another year or two before everybody marches in.
Yes, that's true. I know you have wonderful presentations. Can we start seeing some of your
Yes.
great slides about
Yes, of
Turkey,
course.
which we are longing to see?
Of course, I'll be delighted to share them with you. And I think my friend Hakan is going to start the process, right, Hakan? Okay.
Oh, it's coming.
Okay, so Turkey is indeed one of the oldest countries. I'll explain that to you. It is like an open-air museum, and the subject of the topic today is really, where is Santa Claus from? Is he from the North Pole, or is he from somewhere else? Well, let's go to the next slide, and I'll tell you that Santa is indeed not from the North Pole. You always see him with these fur coats and reindeers and coming from cold and so forth. Well, this guy was born in this ancient city of Patara in the southern coast of Turkey, the Mediterranean coast, which Patara incidentally has one of the best beaches in the world and also a lot of ancient remains. He came from a wealthy family, but he spent all his inheritance on poor people. This was the beginnings of Christianity. The whole Asia Minor, or Anatolia, was under the rule of the Romans, so they were still pagans. They were still believing in the gods and goddesses, Jupiter and Aphrodite and whatever. So he was a Christian. He became the bishop of an ancient city called Mira, Demre, very close to Antalya. And he did a lot of wonderful things. He gave gifts to children. He was the patron saint of sailors. He apparently saved them. He gave money to a father who was going to sell his 3 daughters either to prostitution or slave because he didn't have the money for the dowry. He gave them the dowry money. In the first ecumenical council in Nicaea, our Christian friends will know what I mean by Nicaea, the Nicene Creed. He went there also apparently, and they decided on that during that council, during the time of Constantine the Great, who was the first Roman emperor who accepted Christianity as the state religion. They decided that the 24th of December would be celebrated as the birth of Jesus, and that Jesus had a divine personality. So the main tenets of what we have in Christianity today started with that Nicene Council, which Saint Nicholas was also a part of. He died in Mira. They built a little church for him. Eventually, they created this big church, which you see on the lower parts on the left hand. And people went there for pilgrimage. He was one of the most beloved saints of Christianity. And there are a couple of pictures. Let's go to the next slide so we can see his tomb. You can see this is a marble tomb, but what happened was, in around 11th century AD, some Italian merchants and soldiers and sailors came. They went to the church of St. Nicholas. They took out his bones and brought them to Italy. In Bari, there is a church of St. Nicholas where they enshrined his bones there. What a shame. He should have stayed at the beloved Mira that he had. But if you imagine Santa Claus in your lifetime now with wearing these fur coats and so forth, the disappointing part for you is that our St. Nicholas, the real one, probably wore togas and flip-flops because he comes from a very warm place. So this is a new introduction for you. Now, next slide, please. I also wanted to share something that many people may not know. Turks come from Central Asia. They came to Anatolia as huge groups in 1071, where the Byzantine Empire was in power. They defeated the Byzantines and eventually got into the whole country. But while they were in Central Asia, they lived in what is today most of the Turkic countries, the ones that end with Tan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and all those countries. They all come from there. Our closest racial relatives are Hungarians and Finns. Attila is a popular name for both Hungarians and Turks. Attila the Hun was a hero for us, not for some other people, I imagine. But those Turks in Central Asia, believed in gods before the monolithic religions. And they had a tradition where they celebrated each year the 21st December, the longest night, coming into December the 22nd, where the days grow longer. So the defeat by the sun to darkness. So they celebrated this under white pines, akçam. And they decorated these, they made offerings, they gave gifts, they had celebrations. So this was a tradition that was carried on all the time. On the right, you can see the tree that is portrayed in many places in Central Asia, even today. The holiday was called Nar Doğan. Nar in Mongolian was sun. Doğan, of course, is the place where it borns. So this sun that is born is really translated. And of course, the traditional Christmas tree, which started somewhere in Europe because it was full of pine trees too. And you can see also the designs we see in Turkish carpets and kilims. They're all portrayal of that white pine tree that comes from Central Asia. Isn't that interesting history, how it connects things together? Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, now that we're in the subject of religions, let me tell you very briefly the importance of Asia Minor or Anatolia or present-day Turkey on the history of Christianity especially. The reason Christianity spread so much is probably due, I think a lot of people will agree with me, to Paul, Apostle Paul, Saul of Tarsus. He was Saul of Tarsus. He became a convert, was named Paul, and if it wasn't for Paul, maybe Christianity would have stayed as a small Jewish sect. What he did was to open it to Gentiles. He opened it to everybody. He started his missionary journeys where he toured all over Asia Minor and Greece. So all of a sudden, people learned about this new belief. The term Christianity was used in Asia Minor. The first church in Antioch is in Asia Minor. The 7 churches of Revelation in the Bible are all in Turkey. For the Catholics, the last place that Mary spent her years is in Ephesus. So the ecumenical councils, which really designed the whole philosophy of Christianity, many of them took place in Asia Minor. So you can see, if you're interested, Google all these, you will be able to get a lot of details. As for Judaism, I grew up in Izmir with a lot of my Jewish friends, some of whom still speak Ladino. Ladino was the language they spoke in Spain and Portugal. When Turks came to Anatolia from Central Asia, there were, of course, a lot of Jews. The Jews have been living there for a long time. As a matter of fact, there are synagogues. The best beautiful one is in Sardis, the synagogue. So the Jews were in Turkey or Asia Minor for thousands of years. But the fact that during the next slide, if we could go to the next slide, I think I have another one there. When the Catholics in Europe started to kill or try to convert the Jews because of the beliefs at that time, many Jews started to come to Ottoman Empire. At that time, Ottoman Empire was one of the largest empires, going all the way to Vienna almost. Not quite, but almost. And the Jews who were kicked out of these countries started to come to the Ottoman land. But after the Inquisition in Spain and Portugal, the Sultan, Ottoman Sultan at the time, Bayezid II, sent information to all the borders that all the Jews coming from Spain and Portugal are welcomed to our country. Give them whatever they want, settle them, and we will live with the Jews. So this edict is there. In 1992, we celebrated the 500th year of the Jews coming to Turkish lands, and they still live there after the founding of Israel in 1948. Some of them moved to Israel, but we still have in Istanbul, we have almost 16 synagogues. In Izmir, we have quite a few too. So not as many Jews as we had before, obviously, but still quite a bit of Jewish population still in Turkey today. Can we go to the next one, please? Okay, the reason why Turkey is so rich, as you were saying, we have so many different civilizations. Look at this location. The red is Turkey. It is between Europe, Asia, Africa. It's right in the middle. I mean, what an amazing location this is. This is why it's like a bridge. It's a long bridge between Asia and Europe. People who moved from Europe or Asia moved through Turkey to go to Europe. A lot of the European DNA is Asian. I don't mean to say Turkish, obviously, but Asian, because that's how people flew. Their routes went. And so this is one of the reasons why the location makes it so rich. Next slide, please. You will see that the historical levels of Turkey are amazing. It's the richest country in the world, bar none. It's not only Greek and Roman, like most of the Mediterranean countries are. We started with 12,000 BC, so far known, 12,000 years ago, so far known. One layer upon layer upon layer. In Turkey, when you travel in a bus going somewhere, you see some hills, like you see everywhere in the world. In Turkey, chances are they're either a tomb, an ancient tomb, made to shape like a hill, or an ancient site that needs to be excavated. We know the names of so many Hittite cities, but don't yet know where they are. So the whole country is like a excavation site. So we start our known history, so to speak, 12,000 years ago with Göbekli Tepe, which I'll say a little bit more. And then we go Neolithic, the Chalcolithic, bronze, iron, Hittites, Phrygians, Lydians, Greeks, Persians, Alexander the Great, Romans, East Romans, Seljuk Turks, Ottoman Turks, and finally Turkish Republic. So every day you turn a corner on your road, you get to a different civilization, different history. All these civilizations came and went. This is so mind-boggling. The great Roman Empire disappeared. Ottoman Empire disappeared. Persian Empire disappeared. Alexander the Great died and it was divided. His land was divided. So let's go to the next one, please, because the one that comes after, I want to tell you, there are so many places that you have to see in Turkey. Turkey should be in your bucket list. I don't like that word bucket too much because it kind of reminds you, kick the bucket. We don't want to do that. It should be in your wander list. You should see these places in your lifetime when this stupid COVID goes away. But there are many places that you have to see. And let's start with the next one, please, because that is a very special new program. Göbekli Tepe, which means hill with a belly, was unknown to us until the end of last century, 1990s. When I studied in Ankara archaeology, we started everything in Turkey with Çatalhöyük, with Neolithic civilization, 8,000 BC. And we always believed that people were first hunters and gatherers, and then they discovered agriculture, they tamed animals, they built cities, and then they built temples. Religion started. Göbekli Tepe destroys this whole belief. Göbekli Tepe is the oldest temple or temples that humanity created, so far discovered. We don't know what else can be discovered. But it was built by hunters and gatherers. These people did not have agriculture, did not tame animals, did not have houses, did not have towns. They would fish from the lake or a river, they would pick up fruits, they would kill an animal, and then build these temples. So religion came first. This is why the history books have to be rewritten again. It is an amazing sight. Look at the round circular temples. They're T-shaped. These T-shapes symbolize human beings because there are some carvings. Shall we go to the next slide, please? There are some carvings that show the human shape. This is the first human being statue, human statue. When you go see this one in the Şanlıurfa Museum, you freeze because the eyes, which are holes, of course, look at you. No nose, no mouth. We don't know why. But this is 12,000 years old. And look at this Göbekli Tepe. People started to build these 12,000 years ago. They worshipped and lived there for 2,000 years until about 10,000. Look how long that 2,000 years is. From the time of Jesus until now is 2,000 years. So many things happen in the world, right? But because it was such a holy place for them, they covered the whole site before they left with earth, thousands of tons of earth. So today, as they're excavating, most of the pieces are there. We just have to put the T-shaped columns around and so forth. They discovered wheat. The first domesticated wheat in the world comes from there. They tamed animals, sheep and dogs, and then Neolithic civilization began. But look at the difference. The Stonehenge and the pyramids and the temples of Malta are like 500, 600, 700,000 years later than Göbekli Tepe. So this is why Göbekli Tepe is a site one has to see. You get goosebumps when you see it, honestly. Shall we go to the next one, because I don't want to miss the others as well? Okay, so where else you go to Turkey? The first place you come to Turkey is Istanbul. Istanbul is the only city in the world that is built on two continents, Asia and Europe. There are thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who live in Asia go to Europe to work every day. It is one of the most beautiful cities and the richest archaeological sites, just because it's old and it has been the capital city of civilizations. You see a lot of Byzantine remains, like the Hagia Sophia, the Hagia Sophia, which is lovely, but many others, the aqueducts and palaces. You see beautiful mosques, beautiful palaces, the Topkapı Palace, the Dolmabahce Palace along the Bosphorus. The museums, unbelievable museums of all kinds, including a military museum where you see the chain that Mehmet the Conqueror, when he conquered Istanbul, had to go through the hills because the Golden Horn was blocked by the Byzantines, so the Turkish ships could not come in. That chain is in the military museum in Istanbul. So Istanbul is really an amazing place. The Topkapı Palace, you see the blue tiles. Let's go to the next one, please. And of course, the fortresses on both sides of the Bosphorus that Mehmet II had built to conquer Istanbul. There's a very nice Netflix program, by the way, Ottoman Empire. You might want to watch that sometime. All these beautiful mansions. Some of the most expensive real estate in the world is on the Bosphorus. We should have bought things a long time ago. They're now impossible to buy. Okay, so next one, please. And then, can we go to the next one? Okay. Cappadocia. Cappadocia is a place which you have to see. It is about an hour flight from Istanbul, about 4 hours drive from Ankara. It is one of the most unique places. Another UNESCO World Heritage Sites. We have many of them in Turkey. This is a place which nature created, but man also worked. Because of a volcanic eruption thousands of years ago, this lava, this stuff, created these formations, which created a lot of different formations, which we call fairy chimneys. Shall we go to the next slide, please? The fairy chimneys, because they look as if they were built by fairies. People built underground cities. You see the underground cities. There are many of them. Some of them are connected. People could go down. There are like 8 stories underneath the earth. They could live there for several months without ever getting out. They had their schools there, their churches, everything. It is amazing how people created these places to escape from enemies. One time it was this, one time it was that, whatever. They were always using these places. But then people built also their houses. There is a picture of a cave hotel there. When you go there, you stay in a cave hotel. You don't want to stay at any other hotel in Cappadocia. Where else are you going to stay in a cave? And I always kid around with my travelers, our clients. I say, if you don't like the size of the room, just get a chisel and start it again. You'll get your room to be bigger. The hot air balloon ride there is absolutely phenomenal. You have to get up early in the morning, but the view you see from there is very great. When you land down after flying over an hour, you're so full of adrenaline and excitement. They serve you some local champagne, which is not good, but at that time you feel as if you're having some Veuve Clicquot. It's such a wonderful experience. You have to do that. So the next slide, I'll tell you now more about other places to see in Turkey. Ephesus. Ephesus is amazing. I mean, I was privileged to guide the royal family, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip, and even they were really flabbergasted. It has everything that a city should have. The Library of Celsus, the theater. You see the picture of the Grand Theater. If you look to Acts of the Apostles, chapter 19, you'll see the story you'll read the story that took place there. When Paul came to Ephesus, he came twice. He was preaching Christianity, but the people of Ephesus did not want to accept it because they were making their livelihood from making coins and statues of goddess Artemis. If Christianity came, Artemis would be gone. So the silversmiths and goldsmiths had a riot at the theater where they kicked Paul away. They didn't want to have Christianity because, their livelihood would be gone. So this city, next slide, please. As we go through touring in the city, see the marble streets? There are marble streets in several areas. On both sides are stuff, the temples, theaters, baths, even a house of ill repute across from the library. And ancient toilets, look at these toilets. A lot of important decisions took place there, I bet you, because there's no separation there. And here's the goddess of Artemis. Artemis there is not the huntress. Artemis in Asia Minor, in this part of the country, was the mother goddess. The mother goddess cult is very old cult. In the old times, they worshipped women. We need to get to those times back. All those eggs that you see is for fertility. Mothers created life. Mothers gave birth. So mother goddess is a very important being in Asia Minor. Next slide, please. There are a lot of other places. Pergamum is another place, one of the 7 churches, just like Ephesus was. It has a lovely Acropolis. You see how steep that theater is? You need to have good legs to go up and down that theater. It has the Acropolis from the view, it's very nice. It also had the Temple of Zeus, which is called the Altar of Satan in the letter written to the Church of Pergamum in the Bible. And that Altar of Zeus is now in Berlin. They have a museum called the Pergamum Museum. So it's very interesting. If you go to Berlin, you might see most of the reliefs from that temple. But it also has something, now that we live in coronavirus, we read about the hospitals. It had an amazing hospital. The picture on the lower side, on the right side, shows the hospital. Look at that. You see the theater? They believed in occupational therapy. The sick people watched plays. They had a theater and they had a library. The round circular building was the place where they the priests read their dreams, interpreted their dreams. People would be put on a sacred tunnel. You see the picture on the higher left. The sacred tunnel was the place where people were put to rest. There's a little water going through it and holes on the top where the priest would speak to them. Suggestion therapy. They would say, for instance, I'm making it up now, you are so-and-so suffering from this illness. Go make a sacrifice to God, Telesphorus, the god of healing, and you'll be well. So the people who had that would go to the temple and have their dream interpreted, probably by the same guy who spoke to them the night before, But if you believe that you're going to be well, I mean, it does help. The suggestive therapy helps. Famous physician Galen practiced there. And the symbol of snake, the symbol of medicine, is there. So this is another place that you need to visit. Then we come to the next one. We'll go through these a little faster because I'm afraid we're running low on time. Aphrodisias is another ancient city dedicated to Aphrodite, but again, there it's not the goddess of beauty, it's the mother goddess. It's one of the most beautiful marble cities that you can see. Another place that you have to see. The next one, Pamukkale is world famous. Everybody wants to go there to see these white travertines, the warm water that it comes down in terraces like that. It also has an ancient city right on top at the same place with this theater you see there, with a huge area of a necropolis, a cemetery from those times, 2nd century AD, 3rd century AD, which is unique because this was a place where people came to be well because of the thermal water. So we don't want to see the cemeteries, but it's there. So let's still go to the next one. Okay, Troy. It is interesting because when our kids were small, we took them to tours of Turkey. When my daughter was in elementary school, the teacher was teaching them about Iliad and Homer and Troy. And my little girl says, "Oh, I've been there twice." And the teacher said, "Oh my gosh, is there really a Troy city?" So Troy is in Turkey. The walls that you see there probably are the walls from the time of the Trojan War that was made famous by Iliad of Homer. And of course, this other horse, the wooden horse that you see, is from the movie that Brad Pitt made, Troy. And it is the war that because of a love affair of Helen, and that's the war, the face that launched 1,000 ships. Marlowe described that war. Very interesting. So Troy is a nice place to visit as well. Let's go to the next one. I have to hurry up. Okay, Sagalassos. Sagalassos is in the lake region of Turkey. Very few people know about it. You guys have to go and see it. It is one amazing place. On top of a hill, the whole place looks like as if you're in Swiss Alps, full of trees all around. And this ancient city built 1,000 years ago, and then 2,000 years ago, and then destroyed in the 1,000 years ago. But because it was destroyed by earthquakes, everything is there. We just have to put them up. Let's go to the next slide. These are beautiful. This is the Antonin Fountains. These fountains are beautifully made, put together. There are two of them. Let's go to the next and the next one real fast, Hakan. Okay, look at the water. It's clean. And this one, I wish we could show it to you, but this will show you that the water coming from the original pipes, from the original springs, is still flowing. If you saw this as a live video, you would see the water flowing down to the pools. It is one amazing ancient city. I wanted to include it here because people should know about this place as well. Let's go to the next one, please. Of course, Bodrum, ancient Halikarnassus. That is the starting point of the Blue Voyage that we do on sailboats called gulets. The Crusaders' Castle, which now holds a museum called Underwater Archaeology Museum, the only one of its kind, because there have been so many shipwrecks. All of them have been taken out. And it is lovely to see it because you can see how people lived in those days with the goods they carried. Let's go to the next one, please. Okay, these are the gulets. Gulets are like sailboats. You sail on them. It is Bon Voyage Travel magazine at one time called it the voyage of a lifetime. It is really a voyage of a lifetime. Nothing spectacular, nothing luxury, maybe, some of these boats, but it is so wonderful. You sail in the most unpolluted waters, turquoise waters, looking at land which is full of ancient cities, some of which are accessible from the sea. So, I mean, what more can you want? Okay, let's go to I think the last one of the sites to visit is Southeastern Turkey. Folks, you have to visit Southeastern Turkey after, of course, you've been to Istanbul and so forth. This is the place, this one is in Mount Nemrut. Mount Nemrut was built by this crazy king, Humayun, because he thought he was God. He's buried underneath this huge artificial hill with these statues looking at this huge valley down below. The statues are huge, and the view from there during sunset and sunrise are absolutely amazing. Those are moments that you would never forget in your lives. And then let's go to some other fun stuff now. Okay, why do people visit Turkey besides seeing all the sights? It's shopping. You can do a lot of shopping. The covered bazaar, the spice bazaar of Istanbul. Turkish carpets have double knots instead of single, so they stay longer. They're beautiful. Colors are all natural colors. Turkish leather, Turkish food, Turkish delight, jewelry, tiles, Turkish tiles, in Cappadocia especially, in other places as well. Those are beautiful things to buy. I usually go there before Christmas because I do all my shopping, much cheaper there than here. And then you come here and give all your gifts. Lovely time to visit Turkey. And then why else do they go? Let's go to the next slide. We'll find out why. It's the food, folks. Turkish food is one of the most delicious cuisines in the world. There's a city called Gaziantep in southeastern part of Turkey, which is the food capital of Turkey. Their repertoire is bigger than the French cuisine alone. We have about 150 different ways of preparing eggplant dishes. I'm writing a cookbook. I have about 100 of them, which I've tried on my poor husband. We're still married after 40-some years. But Turkish food is absolutely delightful. You see a spread there of mezes. We call them mezes. They're like tapas, you know, Spanish tapas. We usually eat those mezes with Turkish rakı, which is also called the lion's milk, because when you mix it with water, it becomes a milky white color. And if you're drunk with it, you feel like you're a lion. But, you know, Turkish mezes are good. And of course, the Turkish delight with the pistachios and Turkish baklava, you can see them all. And the people are very hospitable. As a matter of fact, if you see a person who's eating in Turkey, you can say, afiyet olsun, which means, I hope what you eat is good for your health. The person who's eating has to come back and tell you, buyurun, which means come and join me. You can bum around your whole life getting a free meal as long as you see some people eating and remember the magic words. Next one, please. Okay, now I'll give you some trivia information. Some of them they ask at Jeopardy. So let's go to the next one. Now, all these places are in Turkey. Troy, we talked about. Gordion of the Gordian knot is in Turkey. It was the capital of the Phrygian kingdom, about 2 hours ride from Ankara. Mount Ararat, is Noah's Ark still there? We don't know. Mount Ararat is in eastern Turkey. Gallipoli battlefields. Gallipoli battles were very famous battles of the 1915, and you see the trenches there. I was very fortunate to guide the Anzac soldiers, the Australians and New Zealanders who had fought in Turkey. They were invited to Turkey by the Turkish government, and they met the Turkish veterans. They were all alive at that time, but legs missing. You know, it was an amazing place. You have to go to Gallipoli battlefields. Ephesus, you have read these in the Bible, Ephesus, Pergamum, Antioch, all of the 7 churches of Revelation, and of course Istanbul, all in Turkey. Let's go to the next one, please. Okay, some of the words that we use in our language. You say the mausoleum. The word mausoleum in the English language comes from the king of Halikarnassus or Bodrum, called Mausolus. When he died, his wife, also his sister apparently, built this mausoleum, which was one of the 7 wonders of the world. So the mausoleum comes from Pergamum, the Carian king. Meander, you say sometimes, don't go meandering about. Meander is the name of the river in western Turkey going to the Aegean Sea. And it does indeed meander. When you visit some of the ancient cities like Didyma, Praini, you see the river meander from the top. turquoise, of course, there is a stone named turquoise, which was very popular even in Mesopotamia, but we now term it with Turkish blue, the turquoise tiles of Blue Mosque, for instance. Croissant. Croissant was not created by the Turks, but the name comes from the Turkish crescent. When the Turkish armies sieged Vienna, their headgear always had the crescent, like the flag at that time. So because the bakers woke up early, they heard the Turkish soldiers digging around the walls of Vienna. They alerted the army, so the army attacked the Turks. The Turks had to go back. But because they saved the city, so to speak, they were given the right, apparently, all these stories, that they could make this bread and call it croissant as a result of that. And by the way, the strudel that you eat and love in Austria and other Germanic countries, the idea came from baklava, because the Turks brought baklava with their armies, and when they left some of the stuff, but it was too sweet for the Germans apparently, so they just, Austrians, they created from the dough the strudel. And the word tantalize, you always say tantalize. Tantalize was the name of the king from Izmir, Tantalus, who was tantalized by the kings for doing nasty things. Anytime he wanted to touch a fruit from a tree, the tree would shake and the fruit would go away. So it was tantalized. So the word comes from the king of Izmir, where I was born. And the next one, please. Okay, the people, Homer. Homer, who wrote Iliad and Odyssey, was born in Izmir, my city. Melesigeres was his name. He was born by the Meles River, and he was blind, but he wrote, it is thoughts, both books. Herodotus, who was the father of history, he was from Halicarnassus. St. Paul, we talked about. King Midas with the golden touch. King Midas is of Phrygia. Gordion was the city. And Gordion we talked about because that has also the Gordian knots, you know, the knot that Alexander the Great could not undo. So he just got the sword and cut it, and then he conquered the rest of the world. King Croesus, who's, again, in our language, we use that. He's as rich as King Croesus. Croesus was the king of Lydia. The capital city was Sardis. We can thank them for inventing money. They did not have money before. They invented money. They minted the first coins. And of course, our beloved Saint Nick is from Turkey. And I think let's say we go to the next one. Oh, one more. Tulips. You think Holland is the place where all the tulips came from. No, tulips came from Turkey. The ambassador was in the Turkish court and saw these tulips and loved them. He asked, you know, what they were called, and the guy thought that he was asking about his turban, or the story is that the word came from tulbant, the scarf that we use in Turkey. So tulbant eventually became tulip. If you go to the museum, Tulip Museum in Amsterdam, you will see the history as to how the tulip originated from Turkey and went to Holland. There is a tulip period in the Ottoman Empire where we had kind of a crazy king, sultan who wanted to have a lovely life. He would have thousands of turtles with candles on the streets of Istanbul to light up the streets and plant the whole city with tulips. Good time to go to Turkey is around the latter part of April because the whole city of Istanbul is planted with tulips. And I think we're coming now to the last one, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, please. Next one. Okay, we just had Thanksgiving. You call this bird turkey. Well, it's not a Turkish bird. It is a bird that is unique to Americas. It's an American bird. But when Christopher Columbus came here, he brought with him back to Europe a lot of stuff, like corn, like tomatoes, like tobacco, like birds of all kinds, animals of all kinds. Turks at that time had the largest empire. The Ottoman Empire was ruling the Mediterranean Sea. So the Turks planted these things. Turkish tobacco is still very famous, as you can imagine. And then bred these birds, and the Turkish sailors, Turkish merchants, took these all over Europe to sell, and they came to England as well with these birds, and eventually the name became Turkey as a result of Turkish sailors or merchants bringing those birds to England. And in Turkey, we call it Hindi because it comes from India, but not India. It comes from the West Indies, as Christopher Columbus had found. So these are some of the bits of information that I wanted to share with you. Each of these cities that I showed you can make a program of itself. So I just touched the bare top of all these things. I hope I haven't bored you. Next one, maybe you can put the last one. If you have any questions, thank you, of course, for listening and watching this. If you have any questions, you can send me a message, engin@turkeyadisbest.net. And this is all from our PowerPoint presentation.
Well, thank you, Engin. This is really exhilarating and most impressive because we are so cooped up and we couldn't go to Turkey last summer, and we yearn to see parts of Turkey or anything from Turkey now is most welcome in the middle of winter. And thank you so much. And in terms of St. Nicholas, I was reading last night that he used to give secret gifts. He would put coins into people's shoes secretly. Now we put gifts in the socks, and that whole practice of secret giving became a huge economy in the US. I'm sure it's in Europe too. And you remember he did bring a very big plus to the world with the secret coin giving. And it was really amazing that all these cultures are overlapping each other. In 300 AD, when Christianity was taking over and the Greek and Roman mythology is fading away, St. Nicholas apparently was the saint of sailors and fishermen. So there is a touch of Neptune and Poseidon there coming from the blue. And so it is. There is always big overlaps in these cultures, these historic archaeological sites. Anyway, before I finish, I wanted to ask one serious question. You know, I went to Bergamo, and it was breathtaking. First time I went, I never been there. I mean, the hill and what they have done there. Is there any effort to get the Temple of Zeus back to Bergamo? Like poor Greeks are trying Elgin marbles for so long. They even build a museum with the empty space. I mean, why aren't people not returning those treasures back to their countries?
Well, if they did that, Oya'cığım, they will. Those museums will be empty because everything would come back to their original places in Greece or Turkey or Italy or whatever. The Temple of Zeus probably will never be back. The Karl Humann, who excavated there, is buried in Pergamum. I used to kid around with German friends. I would say, why don't you take him and give us the temple back? It didn't work. But one other thing interesting about Pergamum, now that you mentioned it, Pergamum had one of the largest ancient libraries with over 200,000 scrolls of books. And the library in Alexandria became very jealous, so they stopped sending papyrus to write. So Pergamum the king of Pergamum had a competition to invent a new writing material. They created this writing material from goat skin, which was called like pergamea chartae or parchment. Parchment came from Pergamum. In other languages, in Latin languages, is pergamenti or pergamenti. So it comes from Pergamum.
Really? So many things.
So many things.
So many sources. Actually, everything is a source, but you don't think about it, how varied it is. And so there is really, Turkish government is not even asking Germans.
I don't think they can get it. Yeah. It's the temple was not in a great shape, but the reliefs of the temple were absolutely amazing. The sculpture, the work of those were amazing, and you can go to see the Museum of Pergamum in Berlin.
Yeah, I know, but I think may eventually start if Elgin marbles come first. They're working very hard, and if they come first, well, U.S. returned some coins. And there
some
was
statues. As recently, an Artemis statue came back. But I remember when I was young and learning all these things. Fisherman of Halikarnassus, who is the one who really started the love of archaeology in many people in Turkey, wrote to the chairman of the board, probably, of British Museum, and asked them to send pieces of the mausoleum of Halikarnassus, which was one of the seven wonders of the world. And in his most poetic way, like he always was, he said the blue background, the blue sky and the blue waters is the perfect background for this temple, for this mausoleum, and it should be brought back. So they wrote him a letter back. They said, "You're absolutely right. We're going to paint the background blue." And I went to see it in the British Museum. It was blue at that time. So
really? This is funny. Well, I think the Elgin marbles are in a very light in the British Museum. Clinical light. There's nothing to do with those marbles.
To some extent, some of them were protected in a museum like that instead of being destroyed by people. But then some of them were destroyed during the wars. The Second World War destroyed a lot of those things with all the bombings and everything. So it's difficult to save these treasures. We should do our best because these are our background. These are our DNA.
Yes, exactly.
This, right?
Before I let you go, I don't want to let you go anyway. There is now some theories. Well, actually, is based on the new findings in Troy, that the Trojan War took place between Trojans and the Hittites.
Yeah.
Brian Rose's findings.
Hittites actually during the Hittites actually, like the other Anatolian tribes, probably helped Trojans fight the Greeks. The Greeks came with their 1,000 ships to take Helen away.
Yeah, but what is Homer's story? It's apparently it's really a nice poem Homer wrote.
Of course.
But Brian Rose's findings in UPenn, we have him once in a while to come here, and as he gets the different layers in Troy,
nine layers over another.
And that is coming up. I don't know.
I don't know. I've not heard that before. But as I said, things change in archaeology and history.
Exactly.
Like before Göbekli Tepe, just 25 years ago, we had no idea that this existed. When I was guiding Prince Philip, we were walking on the marble streets of Ephesus, and there are these carvings on the streets as you walk on the marble. He said to me, "What is this place?" I said, "Well, Your Royal Highness," we learned that we should address them Royal Highness before they came. I said, "Well, Your Royal Highness, this is so that people don't slide down, in rain and so forth." He said, "Like all archaeologists, you guys make a lot of good stories, don't you?"
What year was that they
This was in 1971. Long time ago.
We are both young at that time. Are you watching The Crown?
I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it.
You have to.
I have to watch it because I have a lot of memories. Yeah. I was at an age when I should have guided the Beatles. I would have loved to guide the Beatles, but The Crown is really important too.
I think we had also something with Jackie Kennedy, didn't she come around?
No,
I must have.
I went to the White House to see Michelle Obama and talk to her.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Is she interested in Turkey or in
No, we
Turkish?
didn't talk about Turkey, but we were there with my husband and my son who was celebrating a birthday. And she said, you know, we said, we're here to celebrate our son's birthday. He looked at my son and he looked at me and said, oh, like, you know, they're all politicians, right? She said, oh, you don't look old enough to be. I said, champagne for the lady.
Well, that's marvelous.
Except me, so she started to laugh.
Yeah, that is funny. That is nice story. Yeah, well, Hillary went to Antalya and she loved it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she had a
The
very nice
Clintons liked it.
museum there.
Yeah,
Antalya Museum.
yeah, but not Jackie Kennedy, but Jackie Kennedy's late son, unfortunately, who died tragically in the plane accident. He had his honeymoon in Istanbul.
Oh yes, yeah, that's so many good.
Place for honeymoons. For those who are going to get married, Turkey is the place.
Yes.
Cave rooms, cave hotel.
Yes. Thank you so much. I don't want to tire you more, but
thank you for inviting me.
I can listen to you, I'm sure everybody all day. There's so much coming.
And I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, Happy New Year.
Yes, same thing to you, to tell our friends in California, in Los Angeles, you are located. Yes, thank you again very much. We really appreciate it. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.